So today I wanted to talk about some foundational communication theories. The one in particular that I'm looking at today is called the Sharon Weaver model. And this was developed in 1949 by Claude Shannon and Warren Weaver. And they see communication as quite a linear process. And this theory is in of itself very, very basic and reductionist. However, I think the beauty of it is that you are able to build essentially from the ground up and really hone in on specific areas. And what they've managed to do is categorize specific stages of communication, whether you agree that it goes in a certain direction or not. What they've managed to do is create those categories, and those categories really have allowed all the theorists from 1949 onwards to look at specific areas, and that's definitely something that I'll be doing. But for now, I think it's important to have an overview, and that's what the Sharon Weaver model allows us. So this model has 5 stages. There's the sender, you have the encoding, you have the channel, you have decoding, and you have the receiver. And it's perceived to go one way. The sender is obviously the person that has a concept to communicate, an idea, some information. This is then encoded into an appropriate code or language. This is then sent through the channel. This channel could be air or it could be online. This channel is also exposed to noise. Noise is disruption, anything that can distort the message. We then have decoding, which is how you understand and perceive the message that's been sent, and then the receiver understands. Okay, so we have our specific categories, and I think just from this explanation, it's very clear to see how much of a foundational model this is, because there have been so many theories that have been built upon this understanding of listening. Lots of its criticism is that it's too simple, but the beauty of it is that it can be built upon. So yes, it is reductionist to see it in this sense, but if we accept that these categories are enormous and have their own area of study, then I actually think it's very, very useful to go back and look at something like this. So when you set out your stall and say, okay, this is what I think communication is, you're making it very clear. And so by making it very clear, we can then define specific areas with which we're looking at. So for example, encoding is how you say something. So when you look at another person and think, how am I going to say something that's going to persuade them to agree with the point I'm going to say? That is one very small aspect of encoding. Then you have decoding, which is essentially listening and how a person perceives something. So for example, you could say, how can I manage myself to understand what my boss is saying so I can get the job done exactly how they want it? And so really, this is just a very, very foundational understanding of what communication is and one of the foundational models. The next videos I do will probably be centered around this model, but may well look at specific areas.